You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet to get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We got Jacob on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border. Gentlemen, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. Matching.
I couldn't tell if that was sarcastic or not, Tim.
Man, I had a good day. I worked out today. Had new job training stuff, and
so clearly someone knows where the weight room is, right?
Said it's that way.
That way,
right?
Do the weight room. You guys both went the opposite ways. That's perfect. Good.
It's because we're both avoiding the weight room.
Exactly correct. That is exactly right, man.
How was your day?
How was the weather up there today, Tim? You good?
It was cool. Oh man, marvelous. Got out in the yard. Got my new Sawzall Milwaukee tool, man.
Nice.
Did a little pruning today,
Wasn't it like 30 and snowing where you were?
No, it was like 40 and windy, but
we had
the sun was out, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, we had snow. Clayton jinxed us. I was like, we're not getting snow. And then all of a sudden it dipped to like 35 and we were snowing. I was like, what?
Yeah, thought y'all were out of the woods, didn't you, boys?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to say here on the show. Now, we had some sad news to break here. On the show, we're just going to go ahead and talk about it real quick. You guys know the soundbite that we play all the time of Bill Tobin saying, "Who the hell is Mel Kiper anyway?" Right? Well, today actually Bill Tobin passed away. So obviously thoughts, prayers go out to his family and the Cincinnati Bengals organization. And some people were saying, "Why the Cincinnati Bengals? What are you talking about?" Bill Tobin has been in professional football forever. And this is why I put like a lot of stock in people that spent so much time around the pro game, because they forgot more about football than I'll ever learn. I promise you that. And that's why it's important for me to continue to kind of lean on. I know you guys agree too, Tim and Jacob. Lean on those people, man. Like the old saying, if I've seen further than anyone, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants, right? Even if someone, and I'm not suggesting Bill Tobin was bad at his job. Obviously, he wasn't spending that much time in the game. Even if someone was bad at being a general manager, they still made it to the NFL, right? If they were bad as an exec, a trainer, weight room, whatever it is, right? There's always something to be learned from those type of people. So one thing that sucks about getting older is some of these, a lot of these older football minds and players, you see them kind of leave us one at a time, and it sucks. Yep. And it really makes you want to slow down and kind of appreciate them when they're here. But a local news company, news agency, whatever, did a quick segment on Bill Tobin. You guys may be surprised to find out he was actually a part of the Chicago Bears organization with the 85 Bears. So the dude had success pretty much everywhere he went and dedicated his whole, adult life to football. But let's play this clip here real quick.
Once a kid on the sidelines watching his dad help construct one of the great teams in NFL history, the 85 Chicago Bears, later being promoted from scout to general manager in Chicago and again in Indianapolis. The same duties Duke now has earned and continues to carry on here in Cincinnati. Now, for the past 2 decades, Bill Tobin was a Bengal, working as a team consultant, one of team president Mike Brown's top advisors, a unique voice that held reverence, according to team staffers we spoke with tonight. This is part of Mike Brown's statement remembering Bill Tobin. Quote, "He was a true NFL success story. He was a good person, and I considered him a good friend. With Bill, I respected everything he said. I just took it as a given. We will miss him. Tonight, we spoke with legendary Bengals lineman and radio broadcaster Dave Lapham.
He had built up unbelievable trust with every organization he was with. And then to the point, that's the football side of him, to the point about him being a father, a grandfather, a friend, just an unbelievable quality human being. I mean, I don't think I've ever met, a gentleman that is a higher caliber, higher class person than Bill Tobin. So as great as a football mind as he had, and he was even a better human being. And I know he's in a great place right now.
We will continue to think about the entire Tobin family tonight. Bill has grandkids that are now working in the NFL. This is a football family dealing with the loss of a great man.
So there you go, Bill Tobin. Of course, this is the clip he gave us, and we're going to continue to play this in his honor. Some people may look at it and go, that's probably a bad moment in his career. He didn't see it that way at all.
Legendary moment in his career.
On NFL Network, they actually played some of the top moments in draft history, and it was right there toward the top. And he actually laughed about it and said, yeah, I think I got my Irish up a little bit. But that was Bill Tobin. Let's play that full clip here real quick, the interaction with Chris Mortensen.
Mortensen is with Bill Tobin.
I knew you'd have one surprise for us today.
Not a surprise to us.
No, that's great. I mean, no, that's what I mean. I'm not, hey. One question, Bill. A lot of criticism about not taking a quarterback here. Your response?
Well, we got a guy up there. Who in the hell is Mel Kiper, in a way? I mean, here's a guy that criticizes everybody, whoever they take. He's got the answers to who you should take and who you shouldn't take. In my knowledge of him, he's never ever put on a jockstrap. He's never been a coach. He's never been a scout. He's never been an administrator. And all of a sudden, he's an expert. He's in our papers 2 days ago telling us who we have to take. We don't have to take anybody that Mel Kiper says we have to take. Mel Kiper has no more credentials to do what he's doing than my neighbor, and my neighbor's a postman, and he doesn't even have season tickets to the NFL.
Hold my beer. I love it.
What sucks, too, is you see Chris Mortensen in the video, too. We just lost him this year, obviously, his battle with cancer. Again, just paying some tribute to those people who kind of paved the way before. I don't consider us media by no stretch of the imagination. We're fans that have a podcast and talk about the Packers, right? But anyone who went before us in the game of football, man, I think it's important to remember them and honor them. And obviously hearing people around Bill Tobin talk about him, just a phenomenal person, a great dad, a great grandparent. Obviously, I believe it's his son, Duke, that's still in the Cincinnati Bengals organization. So it was cool that him and his son, he got to see his son kind of rise through the ranks and then work together in Cincy. So that's what football is all about, right, Tim?
Absolutely. And, very well said there in that clip that we saw too, regardless of what you do in life, I personally hope that I'm remembered for the person I am, not necessarily what I did while I was here. And you can talk about all the football accolades and the success that he had, but to be called a great man, that's the best send off you can get right there for sure. So a lot of respect for Mr. Tobin, and rest in peace. Thoughts and prayers with his family right now.
Absolutely. So there's another piece to the puzzle put in place as far as people hear us play that clip and they're like, what? I don't, yeah, it's funny, but who is Bill Tobin? It wasn't just some random Joe that made the comment. It was somebody who obviously earned his stripes in the game of professional football. So
yeah, Bears, Bengals. He was a GM of the Colts too, I think, for a little while.
Yeah, definitely. So I think he was a GM with the Colts when that happened because they had Jim Harbaugh at the time. And he being Mel Kiper, thought they should take a quarterback because they didn't think Harbaugh was the guy. And that was why Bill Tobin kind of snapped at him. But, Jacob, you got anything to add before we move on to some Josh Jacobs talk here, man?
No, I just, right off the bat right there, I wonder which quarterback it would have been. That way it would have been.
I actually think it was Trent Dilfer.
Okay, so, yeah. And again,
So,
Super Bowl winning Trent Dilfer,
Right. Had the best defense in the league, but you're right. He did win the Super Bowl, right? Yeah. It's kind of his MO was he didn't screw it up, and there's something to be said for that, right?
The only other thing I'll say to that is I think that he was, when I heard this one quote, I don't remember who said it, but they're like, I hope when I leave this world that people think of me as a good man, not a great man. Because if you think about what a great man means, it means like Alexander the Great, it means you probably sacrificed your family's happiness. It probably meant that you didn't have friends. It probably meant that you were a backstabber. It probably meant that you did a lot of stuff you're not proud of to become a great man. A good man probably means that you were great to every single person that you knew and that you needed to be good to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what made you great. It's just the fact that you took care of your own stuff. That's all I'll say.
Yep. There's been some. I'll tell you another great man through the game of pro football that if you guys don't know much about, you really need to go watch his football live, and that's Steve Sable. Both the Sables, father and son, just paved the way for football to be marketing.
Is that the NFL Films guy?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Steven. I think it's Ed Sable. I think it's his dad. Steve Sable was kind of the one who took it over from his dad. It was his dad's passion, and Steve just took it to a whole nother level. And man, just a phenomenal football family, and the way he cared about people and cared about the game and having the game showcased on a national level, the way that it finally evolved. I don't think that you have the NFL at the level it's at as far as popularity without NFL Films today. Like, I'm not suggesting what they're doing right now is the tell-all be-all, but I'm saying, like, with them in the early stages of creating NFL Films, if they hadn't done that, man, I don't know if professional football would have ever passed baseball up, to be honest with you. Because at the time when they came on the scene, you every football game was just, there was no one in the stands. You're talking about in the 50s, right? And baseball was just packed out. So, yeah. Let's see.
They made football art with those. I mean, they were like the first to like zoom in on the ball in flight.
Yeah.
You know, you'd see the ball released and
they
pan out, and it did. You're right, Clayton. It shot professional football to that upper echelon, and arguably now it's bigger than baseball, right?
Yeah,
we've
absolutely
completely flip. You know,
no doubt. Baseball is. I heard it said this way, and I couldn't agree more. Baseball is America's pastime, but football is America's passion. There's no two ways about it, man. So, Steve Sable too. He actually played college ball, and he wrote up his own bio, if you will, and put a bunch of fake stuff in it to make it seem like he was like this big, larger than life character. It was he was from Possum Trot, Mississippi. Believe it or not. I think that's the name of the hometown he made up when he really wasn't even a real. I don't even know if it was a real place back then. But anyway, he made that up. And when his dad started NFL Films, he wrote a letter to Steve and said, "Steve, I've noticed that by your grades, you know, your report cards and stuff that you're sending home, that the only thing you're focused on out there is playing football and going to the movies, but that makes you extremely qualified for my next project. Why don't you come home and help me with it?" And that's where they started NFL Films. So I'm telling you, man, you guys have got to go watch a football live. Steve Sable and Ed Sable. Steve Sable, start there, and then you can dig a little deeper into Ed Sable. It's just really, really cool. So let's see. Tyus in the chat said, "God, I love this pod." Hey, man, we appreciate you hanging out with us, Tyus. Thank you for the kind words, man, for sure. Let's see here. What else we got? I like Jake Shavink. So let's get into some draft talk. Bo Nix equals Trent Dilfer? Question mark. Bo Nix, the thing that I'm coming away with Bo Nix, if you guys haven't had a chance, go look up the X's and O's podcast with Doug Farrar and Greg Cosell and just search Bo Nix and listen to Bo Nix talk about breaking down defenses. Dude is, I don't know if he's going to have like the crazy physical talent that you need to play quarterback at the NFL level at a high level, but man, he's got it between the ears. There's no two ways about that. And I'm actually sitting here looking at my horizontal board. I've got Bo Nix, believe it or not, in the 31. He's worthy of the 31st pick on the horizontal board. So he's right there on the borderline of first round. You guys know you typically take a quarterback one tier higher, which would probably put him in the 25 to 20 range. So there's a decent chance that Bo Nix does get drafted in the first round. I believe that the two that are, there's three on the cusp of getting drafted in the first round, which I think J.J. McCarthy, one of those three, is probably more of a lock now than a question mark. But Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., there's a good chance they could get drafted in the first round or at least early second. I don't know what the Vegas odds are on that right now as far as how many quarterbacks should be taken. But from what I've heard from Bo Nix, I think he could be a better quarterback than Trent Dilfer. Trent Dilfer was just one of those guys who were going to try to protect the football for you as much as you could back then and let your defense win it, right? That was kind of his MO for sure. So let's see here. Let's do this. Let's talk a little Josh Jacobs. And as we get into that, I'm going to play a quick video from Packers.com. And they just did kind of a little interview here with Larry McCarron and Josh Jacobs, kind of breaking him down as far as what to expect from the new running back that obviously had a just absolutely phenomenal year in 2022 where he was the number one running back in the league. And then last year, obviously, took a step back with kind of a lesser talented or a lesser unified, prepared, however you want to say it, Las Vegas Raiders team. So we're hoping to get that 2022 form of Josh Jacobs rather than 2023. But let's see what the running back had to say here with Larry McCarron.
Josh, new team, new guys, new everything. How is your personal acclimation process going?
It's definitely been different, coming out here and just finding my way around. Really, that's just the biggest difference I've had. But trying to interact with the guys and let them get to know me.
I believe meetings are part of phase one of the off-season program. Have you got a first look at the offense? And if so, how do you think you fit?
Man, watching them in meetings, just actually learning the terminology and the schemes, seeing the guys in live in action, it makes me excited for the year.
Jordan Love, he's a popular young man around here. Your first impressions?
I told him yesterday, I gave him a ride. I gave him a ride yesterday. I told him, I said, man, you're a big reason why I wanted to come here. I think he's going to be the next, superstar in this league. The guy's special, and he's young, and he's only going to get better.
You're a brand name in NFL circles, but you're a new guy to Packer fans. Could you describe your play style, particularly when you have the ball in your hands?
I think I'm a player that I give you everything I got on every single play. I'm a guy that goes out there and I want to set the tone.
Breaking free, going to the end zone for the touchdown.
I think that stamps who I am.
Josh, in 22, you lead the NFL in rushing. What was that like? You must have had a tremendous feeling of satisfaction.
What's crazy is that year I went into the game, I kind of never felt like certain. I'm like, man, I don't know about this game today. And I never actually felt like I had a lot of yards until I seen the stats after the game. So it was a weird year, but it was definitely a fun year, and it was definitely something that I look forward to doing again.
5 years in the league and no receiving TDs. Now, I'm going to make you a bet.
Yeah.
I'll bet you $1 that's going to end in the first 2 games as a Green Bay Packer. I mean, do you feel like that is kind of an untapped area of your game, your receiving skills?
That was one of the first things I asked when I came here. I'm like, man, can I catch the ball more? Just because I feel like I showcased it a lot, in college. And, not having a receiving touchdown is kind of crazy. So that's definitely on my bucket list.
Josh, you are wearing your familiar number 8 as a Green Bay Packer, but it used to belong to quarterback Sean Clifford.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way you end up with it. Is there a backstory there, or did they just give it to you?
You want the truth?
Yeah, I want the truth.
Okay, so basically, man, they basically just gave it to me. But yeah. I called them and, I was like, man, I don't want to take your number. And I was like, so I'm gonna make it, worth it for you. And, we shook hands and called it a day.
Josh, you were a captain with the Raiders. How will you approach your leadership role as a Green Bay Packer?
For me, first and foremost, I believe in putting in the work. And, when people see you put in the work, they kind of respect it. And then, when it's time to speak up and it's time to be vocal, I feel like I can do that too. For me, it's just earning the guys' respect. I think that goes a long way.
Now, you sign a big deal. You're replacing Aaron Jones. Do you feel any pressure?
Honestly, not yet. When you think about a guy like that, and I know him personally, he's a great dude, and he was great for this community. I don't think it's so much about the pressure and about replacing him, more so about just keeping that standard and passing of the torch, really, and try to uphold that standard and, and improve from it.
All right, so just another phenomenal interview by Larry McCarron, man. People say he talks slow. He talks slow for a reason, guys. If you know anything about interviewing anyone, it's letting the question digest a little bit. It's how you approach asking the question. It's absolutely huge. You hear some people, the interviewer wants to sound cool. They want to sound smart. They want to be the Magic, right? You hear it. I won't say any names, but you hear it every single week with the Packers when they talk to the coaching staff or the players. They want their question to be so elegantly structured that they're like, listen how smart I am. And the fans are sitting back going, hey, knucklehead, we don't give a rat's ass what you think. We want to know what the players and the coaches are saying. So Larry's just awesome. Jacob, what do you think about our boy Josh Jacobs, man? Him wanting the ball in the passing game, man, gets me fired up.
We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built-for-us.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
512 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Yeah, he's grown on me, definitely. I love the fact that, like you said, he realizes that he's not going to be replacing Aaron Jones, but he's going to keep the torch going kind of thing. I think that he'll end up earning his own kind of respect. I can't believe that the guy doesn't have a receiving touchdown in his career. That I really do. I think with Larry, that probably is going to change in week 1. I mean, the guy is amazing at catching the ball, so I don't know why they weren't utilizing that aspect of his game. And I don't know. This actually struck me as kind of funny too. But it's like, you want the truth? Yeah, they just gave it to me, and then it was cool. I wonder how much money he gave Cliff just to be like,
right. It's like he started to say that, didn't he?
In my head, it's like, what do you give him? Like, it's not offensive, because if you give him like 10 grand, you're like, thanks, bud. You know, but
yeah.
It's just a number worth. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. What do you think, Tim? You excited about Josh Jacobs, man?
Oh man, like over the moon. And man, that smile and the way he speaks about the game, man. I mean, that guy could be commissioner someday when it's all said and done, man. Just really excited. The thing that struck me the most was the comment following the Aaron Jones question was, not about filling shoes or I'm here to replace him, but if anything, my job is to keep that high standard. And I think that applied, he mentioned, Aaron Jones' contributions to the community here in Green Bay. And I think that standard applies both on and off the field. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to be a guy that we'll see continue to uphold that standard, as our running back and, as a pillar in this community too, as he's still learning his way around. If you're watching Josh, I'll pick you up anytime, man. We'll go get some cheese curds, we can hang out, maybe take you over to City Stadium and all of that stuff, give you the Green Bay tour. But no, man, I'm excited. Like Jacob said, he's growing on us. And I think we've had a little time to, digest the departure of Aaron Jones and realize that there's a lot to be excited about with our new running back. And I'm with you guys. I don't know what the over-under is going to be on Larry's bet, but I'll take it, man. I think in the first couple games there, it might happen in Brazil. I think we get inside that red zone. You might see Matt LaFleur dial something up for our running back in the passing game, and I'm here for it.
Absolutely, man. I completely agree. Ron Sanville said he never really had a quarterback like Love either. I mean, the closest thing he had that first year was Derek Carr, and Derek Carr didn't play a 9-game stretch like Jordan Love did. There's no two ways about that. Yeah. Jordan absolutely ripped it up in the second half of the season for sure. So let's see here. 2-0 for this says if we can have peak Jacobs on the ground while adding him in the passing arsenal, look out. And that's the big thing that's kind of the misconception with Aaron Jones last year. He wasn't as effective in the passing game. And we talked about it on Chalk Talk. And it's not the dog on Aaron Jones at the time. Obviously, he carried the freaking team down those last 3 games. I mean, he was arguably the best running back in the league, but he did kind of take a step back in the passing game to the point where you would kind of feel like A.J. Dillon probably was a little more effective in the passing game than Aaron was last year, especially in a timely fashion on third downs. But we'll see, man. I'm excited to see what we do there. And listen, there's always a chance you draft a running back too. What was you going to say, Tim?
I was going to say, do you think that maybe, Dillon probably had a little bit more contribution when it comes to the passing game as far as our running backs, but do you think that's just an overall thing with this, the depth we have in the wide receiver room, and then, the targets at tight end that we have now, and, maybe Tupac LaFleur is going full thug life here and just throwing it to everybody. I mean, we had a lot of stretches there, especially down the end of the season there, where Jordan Love was just spreading that ball around, man. I mean, targets were spread across pretty evenly. Do you think maybe that contributes to a little bit of the lack of attention to the passing in the with our running backs?
Yeah, and I think this year too, one of the things that many people aren't talking about is like anytime we break down a play on Chalk Talk, and it can be a huge positive play, my mind kind of reverse engineers the play and go, okay, how would you stop it if you were the defense? It's just a tick in my freaking brain that's just, it drives me crazy. But immediately I start to go, okay, what would be the counter? What would be the counter, rather than just enjoying the moment? Like the Tay Wicks touchdown there against Dallas where he burns, what was his name? Veteran cornerback, Stephon Gilmore. They played zero coverage. If you had a single high safety there, you're not going to be able to hammer that post, right? It's just not going to happen. But if you're playing a single high safety, then you're not going zero. You're not able to fire that extra body, right? So if you don't fire that extra body, guess what? You might be able to run the ball a little easier in that situation too. So teams are going to look at the tape from last year and go, Reed, Wicks, now Watson's healthy, Romeo Dobbs, right? Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. We got to stop these explosive plays. Oh, by the way, the Russian leader from 2022 is in the backfield. So pick your poison, right? Yep. And now Jordan Love's got a full year under his belt to where he can read and recognize and diagnose everything. Going to be absolutely awesome, man. So let's take a look at the horizontal board here. Jacob, you got anything you want to hit on before we look at the horizontal board?
No, I just think it's funny that Doug just now found out about Tupac LaFleur. Where you been, man? We've had that for a while. What's Goot's name again?
What is it? Gangster Goody, right?
Gangster Goody and Tupac LaFleur. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's the model this year.
I love it. Yeah. Jacob, I don't know if you've seen the horizontal board yet, but here it is. All right, let's throw it up here real quick. I'm going to go full screen. Now, I can zoom in, okay? So you tell me what you want to see, but I want everybody to kind of see the layout of the horizontal board, all right? This is all positions, okay, from left to right at the top of the board. You got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, interior offensive line, defensive line, edge defender, linebacker, cornerback, and safety. All right, so you're going to notice colors here as well. There's going to be a number at the end of the player's name. That is the score in which they have, okay? So I'm going to zoom in here so everybody can kind of see it a little bit better. And you probably go in a little bit further here. Let's go 125. So you can see the top-rated prospect on my board in this entire draft. There's two that tied. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State with a negative 2.7. The lower number wins on my board, okay? That's how it's set up. And then you got Joe Alt, left tackle from Notre Dame at a negative 2.7 as well. Now, some people are going, what's that green? Why is this guy, in the green here, this specific player? If they're in the green, that means they meet the maximum threshold for that position from the Packers, okay? And this is through PackerReport.com and their draft guide, okay? And I want to give a shout-out again to Chris Nichols for turning me on to that, giving me a heads up. Hey, they've got some of these really cool thresholds in there. So that's going to kind of show you, for instance, if you're on the board, let's say that these two players right here, Fuaga and Alt, and you're on the clock, and these two guys had the same grade, you're probably going to lean toward the guy in the green, right? Because he meets all the thresholds. And I've got all the thresholds saved in another file. We can revert back to them on draft night or at any point if you guys want to know what those thresholds are for specific positions. But as we go from left to right, those are the top two prospects, right? Notice the defensive side. Nobody there at the very, very top, right? The top graded defender on my board is an 8.6, okay? So if you go back to the left, you basically, if you went in tiers in increments of 5, you would say tier 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Joe Alt. Tier 2, would be from 0 to 4.9 would be tier 2. So you got Brock Powers, tight end out of Georgia, at a 1.6. Then you got Fuaga at a 2.6. That's a right tackle out of Oregon State. If they majored at a specific position, then I put that position next to their name. Okay. So that's like with him, for instance, Joe Walt, it says left tackle. Fuaga, it says right tackle. That's not to suggest they can't play another position. That's just simply showing where they played the most snaps in college. Okay. So in that same tier, you've got Roma Dunze, wide receiver out of Washington, right at a 2.7. Now, notice I got them on the same line. If it's less than 1 point, they're going on the same line together unless they're the same position. Then obviously we'll have to stack them. So Roma Dunze is in the green. He meets all the thresholds there for the Packers. Then you've got Caleb Williams at a 3.7, hands down the best quarterback in this draft. Now, again, you're willing to draft a quarterback one tier higher than the current available tier, right, of players, of talent. So when you look at what Greg Cosell says, every spring there's 2 drafts, a quarterback draft and an NFL draft. That's what I mean by that. Basically meaning Caleb is technically in tier 2 on my board, but you would treat him as if he was tier 1 because it's a quarterback position. They're treated a lot different. Now, Drake May is in tier 3 as my second quarterback. He would be treated like a tier 2. Jaden Daniels is in tier 3. He would be treated like a tier 2. So you're going to see these players are going to get drafted 1, 2, 3 because they're quarterbacks. Now, the next quarterback will be Michael Penix Jr. on my board, and there's 2 placeholders, okay? So you're going to take 2 off of this number right here on the left to get their true worthy draft pick spot, okay? So Michael Penix Jr. would be worthy of the 25th pick, anybody in that spot. Does that make sense, Jacob?
Yep. That makes sense.
All right, cool. So that's how the horizontal board is set up. Now, when we go on draft night, I'm going to have an extra column over to the left, and I'm going to work this. I'm going to have a physical copy in hand as well. We'll be able to revert back to it in real time as the draft goes on. But when someone's drafted, I'm just going to simply take them, right, grab them, and then move them off the board into the drafted column with the team that they're drafted by. So we were talking about Josh Jacobs, and we know there's a chance we're going to take a running back this draft, right? Let's just use this as a good example. The first running back comes in on my board in the 27 spot, okay? That means he's worthy of the 27th pick, and that's Trey Benson. I'm not suggesting the Packers would take him there. I'm saying I would be okay with them taking him there. I think that the running backs are probably going to hang around to the 3rd round. And the reason being is from the opposite perspective of the quarterback being taken typically a tier higher than their current actual value, running backs typically drop down 1 or 2 tiers because they're not considered as valuable in the draft as we've seen in the past. Now, obviously last year we had a couple players up here in this range with the Bijan Robinsons and the guy I can never remember his name in Detroit.
Gibbs.
Yeah, Gibbs, Jahmyr Gibbs. So if you look at the running back position, right, and we're talking about, okay, there's a chance we draft a running back. Let's say we get to the 3rd round and all 3 of these running backs are available. You got Trey Benson at 42.5. You've got Audric Estime at 47.8, and you got Blake Corum at 48.5. Trey Benson's a slam dunk Packers pick. He meets all the thresholds to the maximum degree according to PackerReport.com. All right, so he would be the pick over them. If they had the same exact grade, you would take Trey Benson there. If let's say Audric Estime was the 42.5 and Trey Benson was the 47.8. You would look at it from a realistic perspective, like, you know what? Do we reach just a touch because we're in love with that kind of body type, that kind of threshold? I think that's realistic to say they would do that. Okay, so anything you want to add here, Jacob, as we go through? Tim, you too, man. Anything at all you want to see as we move through it?
Can you scroll up? I just wanted to see Tavondre Sweat. He's only dropped down into 28th for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, and keep in mind, I do not move people on my board for injury. I don't move them for personal reasons. Okay. That is his true grade. Now, he's lit up in the red for that very reason, though. That tells you, hey, look, this is where he would have been on your board. This is where he graded out. But, you know, many teams, when they say they'll take them off their board, it doesn't mean they're taking them completely off the board. In some cases, it will. But most of the time, it means they're going to take them off their 1st round board. They're going to take them off their 2nd round board. So as you get through the 1st round, there's a good chance that Tavondre Sweat will be the best player available sitting there. If that's the case, then you get into the 2nd round and you see him at the top of your horizontal board every time you pick. Then you're going to look at it from that angle, like, okay, when is it worth it to take a chance on this guy, knowing He's probably coming in overweight because he didn't weigh in at the Senior Bowl, as well as he got arrested or booked for the DWI, which was a misdemeanor, but still he's had a little bit of a history of that as well. So
can I ask one other thing? So SDN 40 goes on here to list Sinat's comparables and his measurables and his RAS compared to Musgrave and Kraft. What if, can you scroll over to tight end and let me know how far our boy Brock Bowers has to fall before Goody literally can't? I mean, if he falls all the way to 25, do we pick him? Or how far does he have to fall for Goody to just be like, I can't not take him? Like,
bro, if he's sitting there at 25, I'm sprinting that car to the podium, because you're talking about the third best player in the entire draft following you at 25. You got to do it. I would. And I'm going to tell you another reason why. Hearing Greg Cosell and those guys talk about him, he's more of a receiver than attached tight end. He can play attached, but he's more of that Y flex, right? He's more of that guy that you could put on the boundary X if you wanted to. He's basically what he is. Brock Bowers, in my opinion, is he's a much better version of Luke Musgrave.
Okay. Yeah, I was listening to 2 or 3 different podcasts, and they all said, what's your deal with Brock Bowers? Like, why would you not take him in the top 10 or whatever? And they all said, well, tight ends, we don't like tight end. And 3 or 4 different guys on different podcasts were like, all right, stop. Just stop thinking of him as a tight end. Think of him as a slot receiver and then go from there. And then I was like, wow, that's a great way of thinking about it. And so, yeah.
And not only that once you establish him as that Y flex, once you establish him as that right there, now teams, let's say you get into week 4 and he's leading the league in receiving amongst tight ends, and everything on tape is going, guys, they're putting him at the boundary X like they used to do Gronk. They're flexing him in the slot, right? Now what teams have to decide to do when you're coming out in 11 personnel in a 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end set, 1 running back, 1 tight end equal 3 wide receivers, then you got to decide, all right, do we go to our nickel set? If we go to our nickel set, it means a linebacker or a safety is going to have to cover Brock Bowers, right? So now do you start treating that like a little dollar look or a little dime look, to where it's, hey, we need an extra DB in there to bracket cover on Brock because he's that effective as a wide receiver? Because you've got to make that decision. Now here's the beautiful thing. And listen, we're not drafting Brock Bowers. There's going to be somebody comment, go, I can't believe y'all think Brock Bowers is going to be a Packer. This is draft talk. This is the whole point of breaking down the board and looking at how things may potentially fall. You never know how they're going to fall. So if you decide to play it from, okay, they're in 11 personnel, we're going to play nickel, right? Then at some point you start running the football on them. They may look to go, hey, look, let's go a little base on first down just to stop the run because they're running down our throat. Now you're in a huge mismatch disadvantage there. Because if you are in an 11 personnel and Brock Bowers is on the field, you might as well be in 10 personnel. And that's where teams are going to start to look at, do we bring in a big nickel here? Do we even flirt with dime? So, yeah, I see him the same exact way, Jacob, as those guys on that podcast were saying. It sounds like he might as well be a wide receiver, a huge wide receiver. And that was the problem you have with Gronk. If you go back and watch the Super Bowl against Seattle, they did that with him. They even put him, if I remember correctly, they put him in the Z. They put him on the tight end side of the field. So they had a tight end in, and they put him on the outside as the outside receiver along the sideline with a wide split, not quite a Baylor split, but a wide split. And that forced KJ Wright to go out and cover him man to man. Imagine Rob Gronkowski on the sideline being covered by KJ Wright, a linebacker. Like, that's mismatch central. There's a chance you could have that with Brock Bowers. Tell you what else there's a chance of too, Jacob. Brock Bowers could be a bust. I don't think he is. I mean, this is a slam dunk of pick as you could find at tight end if he stays healthy. But we've said that about many prospects in the past. It's still a crapshoot, man. You never really know. Jake remembers it. Jake said they sure did, Clayton. It was so sick. If you go back and watch the NFL Films version of the breakdown of that game, literally Josh McDaniels said, I know when we walked him out there and we seen KJ Wright follow him, I knew where everybody on our sideline knew where the ball was going. So that's the kind of mismatches that you get. But so if we look at tight end, check this out, Jake. This is what's really interesting. Brock Bowers is going to be gone, right? Jatavian Sanders will be there, but it's like we don't really need a tight end, do we? So there's going to be other players to choose from, like a Graham Barton, who, by the way, meets the thresholds. I moved him back to left tackle, and I'm going to tell you why. I had to make a decision. I want to remove my personal opinion from the entire board, right? I know Mike Wall said he's not a tackle, he's a guard. I've heard other people say he can play all 5 positions. I went and looked at his snap count. I don't think he played center one time in college. So everybody that's saying Graham Barton can be a center, they may be right. I just don't have any info to back that up. So I moved him to where he took all of his snaps, which was left tackle. And we know, okay, he's got some versatility there, right? He's going to carry a little more value there as well. The arm length is the problem. There's no two ways about that. Mike Wall believes he's not good enough with his hands to play tackle. That's why he would make a good guard, because he's got a real strong base, but he doesn't have great hands. That would kind of make you think he's a guard or a center. I think Mike said he would actually be a better center. So you've got people who played the game breaking the tape down and saying, no, this dude's a center, that dude's a tackle. I don't have that eye. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I do. So I moved him to left tackle just because that's where all the snaps were taken. And again, I wanted to add that aspect into this as well. Like if you notice on the interior, as we go down here, center for Powers Johnson, right guard for Haynes, left guard for Beebe. Most of his snaps were taken at left guard. Zach Frazier was predominantly a center. Look at Bo Limmer. Bo Limmer, a center/right guard. Those are the things that the horizontal board tells you in real time when you're making your pick. So if you get to this pick right here and you got Zach Frazier and Bo Limmer, you got to really ask yourself, they're in the same tier of talent, right? Is it worth it to maybe take the guy who's a little more versatile as opposed to Zach Frazier, who we talked about? He was an all-state wrestler or whatever it was, national champion wrestler, whatever it was. And now you look above them, though, Cooper Beebe, he played a large majority of his snaps at left guard. You don't really need a left guard unless you're going to kick Elton Jenkins to center, which is something nobody's talking about either. If you were to kick him to center and put Cooper Beebe in at left guard, he does meet all the thresholds to the maximum there with the Packers. So back to tight end, what I want to point out to you, though, when you get down here, look at how many of these tight ends. Tim, you chime in at any point, bro. I don't want you to feel like you have to make a comment if you don't have anything to add. But look how many of these tight ends meet the threshold for the Packers. Cade Stover, Theo Johnson, Jared Wiley, Jaheim Bell, Ben Sinnott, A.J. Barner, Tip Ryman. All of those tight ends meet the criteria, the threshold for the Packers. I'm not going to be surprised if we're sitting there at a spot maybe in the second, third, or fourth round and just a stud tight end sitting there. To probably be more along the lines of the third through the sixth that the Packers might take another swing on tight end and replace your
Bell.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a couple of these guys, they just make sense. Jatavian Sanders, I think he's going to be a solid tight end. I've got him as a second tight end, but he doesn't meet those thresholds. Again, like Ryan said on his pod, it doesn't mean the Packers won't draft him. It's just they're probably looking at, hey, this guy right here is more of a fit for us. And if there's better prospects on the board at the time, they may pass on a Jatavian Sanders. So it's just interesting to kind of see how the positions fall. So what position would you like to see, Jacob, as we go through, or Tim too, whoever, man? Let's kind of deep dive some of these positions.
Tim, well, let's let Tim speak up here. I feel like.
All right.
I guess I'd like to take.
It's going to be defense.
I was going to say, you want me to slide over here to defense, Tim?
No, you know what? I want you to slide interior offensive line. Let's go.
All right, cool.
Let's look at O-line.
All right, so if we start at interior offensive line, the very first prospect on the board for me on the horizontal board is worthy of the 17th pick, okay? It's shown him in the 19th spot, but keep in mind the 2 placeholder spots up top with this Excel system here. So he's worthy of the 17th pick. That's Jackson Powers Johnson. Next would be Christian Haynes, who is a right guard. He played pretty much all his snaps at right guard. He's worthy of the 24th pick, right? Now, keep in mind, he's not green, so he doesn't meet the threshold. Now, some of that could be an incomplete RAS. We can't control that. I'm just not going to cheat the board and go, I think he would have made it. I just included the ones that met every single threshold. Some of them were just one off, and you think that's nothing. I agree. But I just wanted to differentiate between the ones that were like, wow, that's probably a Packers guy right there. So, next, you got Cooper Beebe at left guard out of Kansas State with a grade of 42.8. He's solid green because he meets all the thresholds. Right behind him is Zach Frazier, center, West Virginia, at 46.5. He does not meet all the maximum threshold. Then Bo Limmer, center/right guard out of Arkansas to 48.3. They're all Cooper Beebe is one tier higher than Zach Frazier and Bo Limmer. Bo Limmer and Zach Frazier are right there together, though. So we go on down. Cedric Von Prom from Georgia, worthy of the 47th pick. You got Zach Zenter right guard out of Michigan. Obviously had the injury, so he's still kind of healing up from that, to the best of my knowledge. He's worthy of the 48th pick. And then Christian Mahogany, right guard out of Boston College, worthy of the 52nd pick. Then it kind of drops down to Tanner Bortolini out of Wisconsin, center/left guard. He's worthy of the 68th pick. So do you see where I'm getting that worthy of the pick over here on the left column, guys?
Yep.
Cool.
Yes.
And that way, on the vertical board, Bortolini might be way lower. But when you look at it on the horizontal board and you start breaking these players down at the people who are in the similar tiers, like Renardo Green is similar to him, that's where you're going, no, okay, he's actually worthy of a higher pick there. So when you talk about like Chris Jenkins, it raises him up a touch. So is that far enough down for you, Tim, or is there someone you want to see?
Yeah, no, that's a good glimpse. I guess my question is looking at, like, I don't see JPJ falling to us. I don't necessarily see Christian Haynes falling to us, or us even necessarily taking him
right.
At 25. My question is Cooper Beebe a true left guard, or is he able to move around on that line?
See, that's what surprised me too. When I went through, I spent about 3 hours earlier going through everyone's snaps on PFF. Cooper Beebe was predominantly a left guard. So and the way I kind of looked at it is you had to have like at least 100 snaps at another position before I would kind of consider, okay, it's a secondary position. So yeah, he was a left guard predominantly.
So in a scenario, let's say he's drafted by the Packers, do you think they move Big E to right guard? And then you got Zach Tom.
That's a good question.
Jenkins, you got Josh or Cedric Von Pron, hopefully at center. And then you've got Beebe at left guard. And then, Walker or, Caleb Jones, whoever our swing tackles are on that side. Do you think that? Because I feel like Elton Jenkins is another one of those guys that could pretty much play anywhere on that line in a pinch.
Yeah, Elton's one of those guys. He could play anywhere. My big thing is I'm okay with shuffling the offensive line around if it's pre-camp. Once you get on the backside of training camp and now all of a sudden it's like, well, no, that guy can play here. He can play there. That's where you get into trouble because you're spending that whole camp getting everybody acclimated to their positions, and now you've got your swing tackle set, you got your backup guard set, and then all of a sudden mid-season you're going to start shuffling it around. I don't think it's out of reason to draft someone like Cooper Beebe, play him at left guard, and kick Elton Jenkins to right guard. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You just want to do it, obviously, pre-camp, in my opinion. Now, there's some people that would say absolutely not. I think Elton Jenkins can. Elton Jenkins was a center in college. I heard somebody the other day saying, why don't we move him to center? And somebody else was like, you idiot, he ain't played a snap at center hardly. And it's like, bro, you didn't – like we drafted him. He was a center when we drafted him. What are you talking about?
Right. So I think his favorite spot to play is left guard, though.
I agree. Yeah. And I think he's really good at left guard. Really good. So
Clayton, can you possibly scroll down to find Mason McCormick? South Dakota State University is one of my favorites, and I was wondering where he stacks up. Man, he's down there.
If he's on here, let's see. Now we may not have added him yet.
I don't see him.
He should have been on the list because he did make the board. Mason McCormick. Did I have him at left tackle? Maybe no. See, this is why we do this stuff too, because I'm telling you, man, we end up missing people.
McCormick is 138th overall, according to the 33rd team, 14th at his position, listed as a guard.
Let me pull up my vertical board real quick, Jacob, and see. I'm glad you mentioned him because, again, this is one that got away here. I think we've got close to 300 prospects on the board, but again, they still get away. Yep, he's not on my board. He's not even on the vertical board. So we got to add Mason McCormick. Good catch there, Jacob. Where do you see him? You said Tim in the 100s. Is that right?
He's at 138 overall on the 33rd team's big board. 14th as the edit position.
Got it. Again, the cutoff was supposed to be 100 and then 150, and now you see if we go down. Well, you won't be able to see it here, but on my vertical board, I've got it on another screen right now. I think we got up to, completely worked into the board, 263 prospects. So
wow,
you guys have ruined my marriage this year. I just want you to know that. So, Jacob, where do you see Mason McCormick? You kind of wanted to talk about him there.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think he played predominantly right guard, or I know he played guard, and he was I thought he was right up there in the conversations with guys like Christian Haynes and BB and Mahogany kind of stuff. But again, it's a smaller school. But I think Eldegrim, is that how I say that there? I think he said he thought he had some snaps playing center. So I just wanted to see if we can maybe dive into him maybe on a different episode a little bit deeper and see if that was true.
Left guard, McCormick,
another one.
Left guard, yep. Left guard in South Dakota State's heavy front, power-based offense, finished his career with 54 consecutive starts, playing a total of 70 games, primarily seeing his time and starts at left guard. He does have some experience at center.
There you go.
Yep. And if we pull up his snaps, he's 95th on the big board according to PFF. I can't believe he got deleted off my board somehow. That is wild because I remember us talking about him over and over and over. As far as his snap count, this is what PFF is showing. Snaps by alignment for Mason McCormick, 830 at left guard in 2023, 920 at left guard in 2022, 876 at left guard in 2021. So according to PFF, he's only played left guard. But
be a heck of a backup for
this is what Eldegrim was going to specify here because he didn't play center, but he made all the calls at the line in place of the center for 1 year.
That's wild. Isn't a left guard making the calls? That's really cool.
Right.
So, yeah, we got to get him worked into the board here because he's going to score really high. I can already tell.
So he's used to playing on an O-line that's got a little bit of an issue at center, sounds like.
Yeah.
Might fit in pretty well here.
Hey, check this out. What if the old Tucker K came and advocated for McCormick in the third? We'd have a couple of rabbits in the third, you know?
Yeah, we're out of control.
That is
that was
in a dumpster.
That was South Dakota, right? South Dakota State.
Yeah.
South. I'm going to work him in real quick. You guys talk amongst yourself for a second.
33rd team says McCormick projects best as a fierce and physical left guard with a demeanor that should make him a valuable NFL backup. So they've got him at, 6.2 grade, limited starter or multi-position backup. So
limited starter. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Second highest graded guard in all of college football last year.
His weaknesses are playing too high. Apparently he doesn't get down. Plays a little too high. Hands are consistently wide as the biggest knocks, according to 33rd.
And we can coach that. Me and you, we could coach that out of him.
I used to play high back in the day too, but that's a story for another day.
That's a different kind of high, Clayton.
Yeah, that is correct.
Stay off the damn weed.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. The consensus big board has our boy Mason McCormick. We got to go back to January. This is going to hurt him right here. Tim choosing violence on Myers. Love it. So if we go to January 7th of last year, he was 246. He's peaked at 97. So we got to go with the 246, right? Because it was right after the combine is when he jumped up. Literally going into the combine, he was 303rd. And the next week he jumped to 167. That's just wild. So we'll go with we'll go with this peak before the combine, which would be 238. I'll add that in here. You guys keep talking.
I mean, yeah, that is interesting how we talked about it multiple times, how it seems like you either get helped a lot by the combine or basically not at all, or you get hurt a lot by the combine. It's just like very, very large swings there.
Starting to realize why some guys skip it.
Exactly. I was going to say, because
there's no hardly any upside to it, if you're already a decent prospect.
And if you're going to have a pro day and invite, the world to come see your pro day, it seems kind of redundant, right?
Yeah.
You're going to go in the underwear Olympics and then do a pro day. Seems a little bit overkill. So I get why guys skip one or sometimes both.
Well, that's the thing is think about Marvin Harrison Jr. This is the perfect draft for him not to do anything and just rely on the fact that he's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s son, that he was quote unquote the best when the game stopped, like Clayton always talks about before we went to the underwear Olympics and all the drama and all the articles and all the fluff pieces and all that kind of stuff. And he's got two guys between Odunze and Malik who on any given day, people say they could be the number one wide receiver. He's, I think, been smarter than anything. Because what if he ran like a 4.55, had a bad day, you know what I mean? Or ran or had bad broad jump and Odunze killed it. And all of a sudden, whoop, just because they did a couple more articles, people's minds get swayed. And I think he was smart, just staying and doing what he did.
Yeah. That's a great example of a guy who could probably only get hurt by doing that. Really.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, like, remember last year with CJ Stroud, the cognitive test, whatever it was, what was that, SI test or whatever it was. I can't remember the name of it. Remember, they said that he took it on hardly any sleep, scored really low, and that's what made him drop a little bit there, or was going to drop in the draft, right? There was all week long, people were talking about how CJ Stroud scored low on that test, right? And all of a sudden he comes out. It's like, where are those people that were saying that? You know what I mean? He ends up being basically the best quarterback last year amongst the rookies, right? I mean, he's arguably a legit top 10, maybe even top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So it's just, I understand everything's got its place. Like Daniel Jeremiah said, everything's got its place. You know, the measurables and everything at the combine, they've got their place. At the end of the day, like Daniel Jeremiah said, like it should come down. The most important thing should be the tape. And like me and Jake Shavink have talked about in the past, and he said, you know, PFF kind of is the numerical version of the tape. It really is. Now, some people can disagree with it. That's okay. And we're not saying they're 110% accurate. We're not saying that at all. But it's just more information is better than less. Let's see. So I worked him up, Jacob. 106.3 was the final number on him. So I got to make sure he doesn't, whether he meets the thresholds or not. But on my vertical board, that's going to put him in the 103 spot. So 106.3 will be Mason McCormick. Now let me add him in real quick.
Late third, early fourth.
What's that?
Late third, early fourth-ish range, kind of.
Maybe even earlier. So let me work my way back over here. I said 106.3, right? So 106.3 would be right here. So let's throw him in. Bang. Left guard. 106.3. And then, like I said, I'll run it down and see if he meets the thresholds or not. So we'll kind of go off of that. Need to get that font matched up too. I'm so bad at this, bro. Tim was schooling me on it earlier because you guys know in the past I've always done the whole just build the board out manually, right? That's what I was always comfortable with. But yeah, we're getting better though. We're getting better at it. So yeah, there's where Mason McCormick lands. So he's worthy of the 72nd pick, Jacob.
All right.
I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you for finding him. Again, that's why we do these exercises too. So
there's a guy.
So we just see if he meets the thresholds. So.
You know what's just a random topic here is that you're talking about how kind of when you watch teams opposed to maybe looking at grades or just listening to consensus and rankings and all that, a guy that I was not high on, and then all of a sudden, like last night, I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I started watching random film. Jaden Hicks, I'm in love with all of a sudden. And it was because one game when Washington, I think it was Washington State he played for, whoever he played for, played against Wisconsin. He shut that game down. And just the way it reminded me of watching Kyle Hamilton or what was the other guy that went to the Lions? The other safety that everybody's like, he doesn't have a good 40, he'll never get drafted, blah, 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 Branch. And I just watched this dude completely take over the game. And like as a safety, if he wasn't making a play, he was lighting the guy up afterwards. And if he wasn't around the ball, he was like just around the like just coming up. He was stripping the ball after he was making tackles. He was getting guys jacked up on the sidelines. He was just looking like he reminded me very much of like a Harrison Smith type or like just a very aggressive safety that could come up and play the run, but also was decent enough. And yeah, like a Hamilton comp. Exactly. Thanks.
13 says plays with physicality, locates and attacks the ball.
Yep.
They got him 86th overall, 4th at the position. 6'2", 211 out of Lost Wages, Nevada. Jaden Hicks.
Real Lost Wages, Nevada.
I love it.
That's what I call it. No, he's from Vegas, but yeah, he played at Washington State. 3-year sophomore. I mean, the one thing is though is lacks range to play single high. That was one of the weaknesses.
We don't need him to do that.
That's what I'm saying. So, this guy could be a good fit. I don't think we're going to need him to play single high. if we're in single high, that's probably Mr. McKinney's duty.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll slide over to him. I want to say this about Mason McCormick, and then we'll move on to Hicks, like you guys were talking. The only threshold he doesn't meet for the Packers to be maxed out, Jacob, is he doesn't have tackle experience. If he had a little bit of tackle experience, he would check all the boxes. So just to kind of show you that he's probably on their radar, I would imagine. RAS of 996, I believe. So you said Hicks, right, Jacob?
Yes, sir.
All right. So when you look at the safety position for me, Tyler Nubin, worthy of the 22nd pick. All right.
Hello, Nubin.
Javon Bullard is the second highest rated safety. He's worthy of the 46th pick.
Ew.
Oladapo is worthy of the 48th pick. Now, you're probably wondering what's up with that pinkish color, right? That means he was a top 30 visit and he was a Senior Bowl participant. Okay, so that's what that simply means right there. Oh, we're to slide it over and up. You can kind of see right there. It says 30S. That's what that means there. Up next is Taylor Demerson. That's Emilio's guy. He comes in at the 57 spot. Now, notice here, too, how it will say it'll have a letter next to him, like Javon Bullard, D/S. That means the majority of his snaps he played deep safety. The second amount of snaps he played slot. Okay, Tyler Nubin, the majority of his snaps he played deep. The secondary amount was box safety. Okay, so people see him as just a box safety. That's what I was saying initially when I went to watch the tape. Pre-draft was like he played deep more than box. But again, the NFL, it's about projecting players. What are they going to project to at the next level? Most people see him as that box safety. So Hicks, got to go down a little bit. He's worthy of the 106 pick on my board. And Hicks is basically, he's setting up as from a positional standpoint, box first, deep second, slot third. So he's one of the few safeties like Cole Bishop that can pretty much play anywhere. And you can kind of see those letters like James Williams, same thing. When you get later in the draft, these guys, it kind of makes me think that's why they're making the board here too, is because they're so versatile, right? And they add a little value there. So
33rd team's got him number one as box safety based on the stats, box percentage, 46%.
Yeah, that's what PFF was showing. Box. You're talking about Hicks, right, Tim?
Yep.
Yeah, they had him box, then deep, then slot. So a lot of versatility there, Jacob. I'd be okay with that, man. Again, where he lands on the horizontal board, he's worthy of the 106th pick. If they were to reach a little bit and take him at 91 and that's their first safety taken, I wouldn't have a problem with that pick at all, man. So another thing to point out too here, I'm going to zoom out just a touch. And again, you won't be able to read the names, but just to show you some other things we got in place. If you see this gold color here, I think there was another one up here. See Tyler Guyton and how he's gold? That means he meets the threshold. You see the T30S right here? That means he meets the Packers' maximum threshold. He was a top 30 visit, and he participated in the Senior Bowl. There's only two players on my entire board, right? Two that end up in the gold like that. Let me stretch this thing out here a little bit. There we go. Yeah, don't even start. So Tyler Guyton is one, and guess who the other one is? Mr. Trayvon Wallace from Kentucky, linebacker. So that if you were to say, all right, Clayton, you got to put some money on it. The Packers you don't have to guess where they're going to take them, but they're going to draft one or two players. Who would they be? My pick would be Tyler Guyton and Trayvon Wallace. I think that they meet their criteria to a T. Now the question is, does their horizontal board line up with other teams as far as value goes? I've got Trayvon Wallace down here worthy of the 122nd pick where he sits on the horizontal board. So
nice.
That's how he sits right there. See if there's anything else. Cornerbacks, Tim, your boy Ennis Rakestraw. Let's take a look at him real quick.
Yes.
Yes, double yes. Ennis Rakestraw, I've got him. Remember when Daniel Jeremiah said there's going to be clusters, there's going to be pockets of players, right, that are graded out very similarly? You'll see it with the safety position as you get down in here. Like you got Javon Bullard and Oladapo, Demerson not too far behind them, right? You get kind of these pockets. Look at this pocket of cornerbacks right here, man. This is really interesting. So if we'll just hit the cornerback position, we'll wrap up. I got Quinyon Mitchell worthy of the 7th overall pick, all right? I got Kool-Aid McKinstry worthy of the 16th overall pick. And then it drops down to Nate Wiggins, Terrion Arnold, Cooper DeJean, and Ennis Rakestraw Jr., okay? And here is how they sit. Nate Wiggins is worthy of the 21st pick. Terrion Arnold is worthy of the 22nd pick. Cooper DeJean is worthy of the 23rd pick. And Ennis Rakestraw Jr. is worthy of the 24th pick. So it's right there in the wheelhouse, Tim. Now, here's the other thing, too. Everybody's saying, and when I say everybody, I don't say that being sarcastic. People that I appreciate and trust, Daniel Jeremiah and our boy Greg Cosell, first and foremost, right? They both see Cooper DeJean as a slot corner or a safety, okay? Now, when I went and looked at the snap count, he didn't play one single snap at the safety position. If he did, it was very, very minimal, like less than 10. So he played predominantly outside corner at Iowa. And everybody's just pretending like, oh, he's going to be a slam dunk safety. And I'm not pretending, but that's what they're saying. That's what they're projecting at the NFL level. I'm a little bit hesitant on that now. That's why I moved him back to cornerback. So his snaps were at outside corner and a little bit at slot, I believe, if I remember correctly. Let me pull up his card real quick. I won't have it on screen, but I just want to double check that because it really caught me off guard. Because am I wrong, Jacob? Is that how you're hearing them talk about him too? Like Cooper DeJean, he's going to be a safety. He's going to be a safety in the league. Is that
I have heard that. Now, to be honest, if it's me, that's where I would feel more comfortable in his rookie year. But I don't know. Maybe we put him out there, and he's made a career his whole, high school, college, and now into the pros of people kind of doubting the guy, and he just comes out there and he's consistently the best football player on the field, it seems like, and he's always making plays. Plus the fact that he does have that return capability. I personally would, if we drafted him in the first round, we better believe I hope they plug him out there opposite of Jair and at least make him, if he starts struggling a little bit, if we have to adjust him to like a box safety, then cool. I think he could definitely do that, but I would 100% want to start him out there and see.
Right. And when you look at the snap count, last year, 630 snaps on the corner, so outside corner basically. Only 23 slot snaps and only 23 box safety snaps.
Wow.
So that's why I was like, whoa. Now, the year before, 140 slot snaps, but still 553 on the outside and 91 in the box. Okay, but to me, it looks like he probably played a significant amount of more of snaps there. Now, the other thing that worries me about Cooper DeJean, his man coverage grade was 63.7. So, again, the completion percentage, 43.5%, is darn near elite. Actually, I think it is elite. But that man coverage grade worries me a little bit because what are we talking about doing with Hafley's defense? We're going to be playing more man, right? It's just something that kind of concerns me a little bit. I'm not as sold on Cooper DeJean, but at the same time, you hear us say it all the time. You hear people say it in the football community. You got to trust the board. You got to trust the board. According to the board, if we were to trust the board, he's worthy of the 23rd pick. Therefore, you could take him at 25. So that's how he sits on the board. But all right. We are at the hour 7-minute mark. This flew by. I'm so glad we found Mason McCormick. Jacob, thank you so much for mentioning that, dude, because that's going to be huge. I mean, you're talking about a top 100 pick there. And again, he probably got deleted out of the system at some point. Any other one you could think of, you let me know, and we'll make sure he's on the board and working in because we're coming down the stretch. And my goal is to have this printed off, have a copy for me and a copy for Emilio by this Wednesday. So when the draft gets here on Thursday night and this weekend, we're going to be ready to go.
You should send me a copy, and then I could print one off. I'll laminate it. I'm thinking I might wear a headset for the draft, like an Andy Reid style. Have my marker. Here's one. We talked about him actually. So Eldegrim says, have you looked into Josiah Ezrahim, the tackle from Eastern Kentucky? We actually did that at the end of last night's episode or the night before, if I'm not mistaken. And he did grade out to be crazy good. He was, as he says here, PFF had him as the seventh best tackle last year. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not mistaken, the year before he only graded around like a 61-ish or so. But
right. Yeah.
Yep, you do got him.
Yeah. So on my board, we've got Ezrahim, I think is how you say it, right? Ezrahim. We've got him at a 238.1, which makes him worthy of the 149th pick. Now, he was predominantly a right tackle. So, again, one of those guys that may be taken a little later in the draft, but that's where I've got him sitting on my horizontal board. On the vertical board, it would be different, right? So people were seeing that and go, wow, I didn't think he was that high. That's what he's worthy of, looking at the horizontal, because you're comparing apples to apples out there, right? That's the beautiful thing about the horizontal board, is it shows you, okay, yes, this player is better than this player, but they're in the same grouping. Therefore, okay, this isn't a reach here to take this player, right? So if I go to the vertical board here real quick, I'm going to see if I can find him once again. He's going to be a little bit lower. He's landing in the 218 spot on the vertical board. So he's technically the 218th best prospect, but with the way the horizontal board lines up, worthy of a little bit higher pick there, the way everything falls. So that makes sense?
Yep.
Yeesh.
Cool, man. This was fun, dude. I'm glad we got to do this. Yeah, I was trying to think if there's anything else. We covered all the color code and everything, and how that's going to play out as far as, on draft night. Like, what are we actually looking at with some of these color codes? Again, the gold is like the golden goose, right, Tim? Those are the guys. It's like, all right, that you're not going to find a more Packer pick than Trayvon Wallace. Again, I've got him on down the board, but the 33rd team has him like in the 70s, I think, or something. And then, of course, Tyler Guyton toward the top there, tackle. We know his name has been mentioned for potentially that 25th pick. Again, I think he's worthy as he sits on the horizontal board. I think Tyler Guyton is worthy of the 45th pick, so it'd be a bit of a reach at 25. But what did we talk about last night, Tim, or yesterday, whenever it was? We reached, according to the consensus big board, we reached on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first 6 picks in our draft last year, and reached as far as 39 spots for Jaden Reed, and 34 spots for Kobe Wooden. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that if Goody looks and goes, this guy fits everything, let's take him. Might take him at 25. So
do you think you'd ever reach for Eric Sutherland? Where you drafting him?
Yeah, I'd take him in the 14th round. Oh wait, there isn't 14 rounds. Oh.
Yeah, I would reach for Eric Sutherland. I'd reach for the door and throw him out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man.
Yeah. Jake says the Golden Geese scare me. I'm not a big Tyler Guyton fan, Jake. I'm not, but my gosh, every year we go, who? Why now? And that's how Goody rolls, right? So I say every year. It's not really true. When he took Wyatt, we were all over that one. We were all over LVN last year, but once you get inside the top 15, it's a lot easier to predict. So you guys got anything else before we wrap this big bear up here?
Nah.
All right, let's get out of here then. We've wasted enough time. We're at 1 hour and 11 minutes. The closer we get to the draft, you notice the shows get longer, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
It's because there's so much to cover, man.
Are we doing a morning show?
Yes, we are. We will be doing – well, no. We can't tomorrow. We got to finish setting everything up. There's a chance we can do kind of an early afternoon show. Can't do a morning, though. We got all the tents. So we got 7 huge canopy tents in the front yard, bro. Like, it's going to be a madhouse. I don't even want to talk about it. It's going to be a madhouse tomorrow. I'm going to be hiding every chance I get. So let's get out of here. All right. Tim, thanks for hopping on here, bud. Jake, you too, man. This was a lot of fun. Again, guys, don't forget about the draft party coming up. Make sure you sub to the channel, all that good stuff. We're going to be going live all 7. We're going to give away in round 1 for our Patreon members. The autographed Paul Hornung jersey with all the accolades stitched on it as well. Let me give a quick shout out to our newest Patreon members. We got Carly Ray, of course. We got Mike Berry, Boz, and Will _RVA. Appreciate y'all joining the PTA posse over there on Patreon. You can find that in the description of the video. You'll see if you can just go to Patreon too and search Packer Fan Total Access. You'll find it there too. So we're out. Thank y'all for hanging with us as always.
For those of you listening on the pod.
Let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.